Hello and welcome to the Bulletin with UBS on Monocle Radio. Each week, the sharpest minds and freshest thinkers in finance take you beyond the numbers and hype, right to the heart of the big issues of the day. This week, we're training a lens on the launch of UBS House of Craft with Dior, an exclusive fashion and photography exhibition dedicated to the craft of couture. This unique event offers a rare opportunity to experience the craftsmanship and legacy of Dior, honouring the timeless elegance and innovative spirit that both UBS and Dior embody. The event is taking place this week in New York City. The House of Craft explores the legacy, technique, innovation and future of couture through the inimitable lens of leading fashion industry figure Carine Roitfeld. As we will hear in a moment, for the first time, the exhibition unites the work of all 7 of Dior's creative directors in one place. Roitfeld's curated a selection from Dior's extraordinary archive to style looks that honour 8 decades of leadership of the house. The reveal of this photo exhibit, captured by acclaimed photographer Brigitte Niedermair, from whom we shall hear in a moment, brings Dior's archives and legacy to life. Well, let's start this very special episode of the programme then by welcoming back to the show John McDonald, Chief Marketing Officer and Group Head of Brand and Marketing Innovation at UBS. John, welcome back to the show. Indeed, always a pleasure to talk to you. Now, before we chat about the House of Craft exhibition and all the excitement around that, just remind us why this idea of craft is so important for how you're presenting UBS to clients and to the wider world.
Craft for us has been one of the key ways we've articulated to the world over the last 18 months, kind of who we are and what we stand for. It stands aside those principles of expertise and history and innovation and dedication to clients. So it's a word we've rallied very much around over the last 18 months. We launched a big brand campaign in January of 2024, and we launched it to great success. But what we found when talking to clients and talking to prospects is they love this idea of craft, and they were very interested in experiencing it if we could bring it to life in a more experiential way. So that's where House of Craft was born, really. It was our idea to take this notion of craft and how we apply it to what we do, but also how we can champion it in other fields: fashion, horology, gastronomy, other areas. So from those ideas was born House of Craft, which is our experiential brand platform where we bring together clients, prospects, experts, craftspeople, and kind of celebrate our collective passion and enthusiasm for craft, both in what we do at UBS, but also, of course, in these other fields that are really many at the centre and heart of our clients' passions.
Well, yeah, and let's talk exactly about that, this collaboration with Dior in particular. Talk to us about how that reflects those values and actually reinforces the ethos, exactly as you've described, John, craft, taking care, creating things that are timeless. Because I guess if we look at the craft of couture, for example, and maybe it requires a little bit of a leap, but actually the values are kind of the same. You can preserve this timeless quality, you can build for the future, you can respect the past whilst being innovative. It dovetails nicely, right, with the kind of values that you espouse.
We absolutely believe so. So it's a fair question. Why on earth is a Swiss bank and the world's largest wealth manager talking about couture and talking about craft? But to your point, the ethos at the heart of both are very similar, right? Long tenured expertise and passion, dedication, a commitment to quality. And when we were looking for a partner to bring House of Craft to life in the couture space, obviously Dior stands out, much like us, a long, long history and legacy. For them, 80 years, for us, 160 plus years of kind of bringing these values to life. Innovation decade after decade. In fact, at the House of Craft in New York, we're going to be showcasing some of the famous silhouettes that really define the aesthetic of Dior, and also this restless spirit to innovate, right? So there'll also be talks during the House of Craft about the future of fashion and where it's going. So craft really is the bridge between what has been in terms of excellence and quality and the future, kind of this restless innovation that I think craftspeople have at their core. So as you say, brings together the similar ethos in a field that you might not typically expect a financial firm to be in, but we think really very complementary.
Yeah, and just to sort of mention, the names that this incredible kind of honour roll, if you look through the creative directors who've obviously worked at Dior. Listen, fashion aficionados amongst our audience will be familiar with these names, but it's pretty incredible. Obviously, Christian Dior, Yves Saint Laurent, Galliano, Raf Simons. I mean, it is absolutely incredible. It must be, I don't know, it just must be exciting just as a punter, almost, you're not involved in the project, when you start to get to see these things coming together, right?
Absolutely. So look, very glad this isn't video, right? Because also the audience may question my credentials in the couture space. But I will say the names you just listed and the innovation that Dior has shown, we'll be bringing that to life too. So at the House of Craft, you'll see sketches, drawings. We'll be drawing a through line from how the house has managed to, decade after decade, stay relevant by being close to the passions of their audience, by being close to expertise, by honing their expertise. So that legacy of restless innovation, of continual improvement, change, definitely will be brought to life in the House of Craft experience for those who can attend in New York.
And John, tell me, you alluded to this already, which was about, adding this depth of engagement to your conversations with clients and prospects alike. But just tell me a little bit more about that and how, when you forge a partnership like this with a house like Dior, how that enhances the engagement. Is it one of these things where when you actually get to chat with aforementioned clients and prospects in person, you can kind of see it, sense it, and they can too. It must be the kind of almost the electricity of those moments, right, that vindicate the approach. But talk to us about the mechanics of deepening those engagement, because that must be one of the most kind of fulfilling aspects of your role on a day-to-day basis, right?
Absolutely. I think what House of Craft is able to let us do is bring clients together and prospects together to connect around the things they are madly passionate about, which is obviously a privilege and a fantastic experience for us and hopefully for those people we bring together. We aim to program it so that it's inspiring. So these clients of ours walk away, these prospects that we're having conversation with walk away inspired. And we also, want to be in the same places their passions are, because it does unlock a different kind of a conversation. So whether it's couture and maybe why did you get into that, how it's motivated you in your life, how it motivates you in terms of what you want to accomplish in life, whether it's horology, watch collections, which we've also trialed last year with the House of Craft, which also unlock different kinds of conversations. I think that is the key for us. These passions unlock a different nature and type of conversation with our clients that is about their future, their legacy, the joys of their life. And that allows us to have a richer, rounder, more in-depth conversation about their financial futures.
John, let me just ask you something. This is a slightly abstract question, but I know, I can't remember whether I read something that you'd written or maybe heard you say this somewhere else, but you were talking about this interesting intersection between sort of heritage and vision. And it's funny, I think if we look at the great houses, if we look at couture, this is a conversation. How do you respect the past whilst fearlessly innovating? How do you balance that? Because I guess as a marketer, as a leader within the business, you are the steward of this brand. It's storied, it's got all this history, but you're also tasked, right, with bringing your own innovations as well that serve current and future prospects. Are those things in tension sometimes? Is it tricky to navigate that, having this one eye kind of on this rich history, but one also looking forward and looking for the new? Or actually, do you find that it's not a tension and it's an exciting place to work in?
I actually think it's an accelerator into the future. Ultimately, it's all based on your values, right? So conditions change, environments change, but values and the values that are the reason why clients have chosen you for decade after decade stay the same. A passion to be close to them and what they need to do, a commitment to continually refine our expertise, a history and legacy to point to of navigating the ups and downs of financial world. These are the things that our clients are very passionate about. So for us, when we then think about the future, and this is why the House of Craft is a great example. Obviously, maybe 20, 25 years ago, 30 years ago, a House of Craft wouldn't have been the kinds of thing you do. But today, we have kind of the capabilities and the opportunities to deliver these kinds of experiences for clients. So for me, actually, there isn't a tension necessarily between the changing opportunities and challenges of the future and what we've done historically. They really are our foundation to make sure we embrace the future, but do so in a way that's consistent with our values and ethos.
Yeah, and John, just tell me, how do you then keep building and keep challenging people's expectations, the expression of craft? I guess there's so many different ways of looking at it. You mentioned horology, you mentioned gastronomy. I guess the more you do, the more successful it gets. I don't know, do you think bigger, broader? Are you allowed to sort of tantalize us with other areas of craft that you might explore in the future?
Well, I think it starts with listening to attendees, listening to clients, building on the good experiences that we deliver and that they're having, and then identifying where it makes sense, if we can, to scale those experiences. We'll certainly have every intention this year to do additional House of Crafts in New York. We're looking at Asia Pac as well, where we can bring House of Craft to our clients there. We believe that so far the experiences and the feedback we've got are super positive. And I see a future where we absolutely are doing these kinds of activities consistently in our key markets.
And John, just finally, I'm sure this piques the interest of, as you say, existing clients, maybe listeners who are just intrigued and would like to find out more. What should they do? Presumably they should head on over, come and see you, and they can maybe ask you about it in person.
Absolutely. When we do these kinds of things, we do want to celebrate craft with a range of people, not just clients, with prospects too, with people who are madly and wildly enthusiastic about the topics we're bringing to life. No different with House of Craft and Dior in New York. So we do have a public exhibition on June 6th, 7th and 8th. It's open to the public. There'll be a range of things going on, talks about the future of fashion from Dior luminaries. Again, the exhibition, which is 35 portrait photos we've done of the most iconic Dior gowns, will also be on display. So people can come, hear fantastic talks, be inspired about couture, as well as get up close and personal to some of the archive material that Dior are bringing over to the House of Craft, and as well see some of these custom photography that we've had done with Brigitte Niedermair, which again bring to life just the incredible, iconic way Dior has constantly innovated in the fashion space over the last 80 years.
John McDonald. And we are very fortunate, as that wonderful photographer that John just mentioned there, Brigitte Niedermair, is also joining us now to talk about her stellar contribution to the House of Craft. Brigitte Niedermair, welcome to the programme. Thanks for being with us. Look, John has set the scene for us beautifully, but can you tell me a little bit about how you capture Dior's craftsmanship in your images?
Let's say I'm working now more than 13 years for Dior, for the house. And my way of working with them is quite unique, because I draw before, and then I present my drawings or my intentions, what I have on these drawings. And then we go into producing images. So it's a quite precise way to work, because my working process is still a 4x5-inch camera. So I'm still working in the real, let's say, or in the historical photography way. And I'm producing 4x5-inch slides. These 4x5-inch slides, they become then the originals. And from the originals, we go into technical aspect is the scanning, and then you can produce them on different platforms. So let's say the way how I work is quite as well unusual, because today everybody is working in digital, in fashion photography, because it's a quite quicker, or it's a more, let's say, involving process. My process is a little bit the process what was done by Richard Avedon, by, let's say, it's related to the old masters. I related to it. And my feelings for all this new photography is that what I like is to keep it out of the time. For this, I try to preserve also the way of working in this slower process.
Well, can I ask you a bit about that? Because obviously the exhibition is House of Craft, and we've heard about UBS's interest in the idea of craft, the value of that slower approach. And do you think that there is a craft to shooting on film that actually you cannot replicate then digitally? Is that really why? Is it because you mentioned Richard Avedon, these amazing, well, they are craftspeople with their imagery. Do you think there's a specific craft to working with film that remains unique and remains special?
Absolutely, yes. Because the moment you're working in a 4x5-inch camera, first of all, you see all the images upside down. So you have to teach to your eye to look at images in a completely different way. Then, second of all, when you close the camera, you don't see the image anymore, and you have to trust to the person you're shooting and to yourself. So it's a mystical moment, this 1 second or 2 seconds in the middle. And then I call myself always as a sartorial photographer. It's like doing a clothing, it's like pitching it, making them happening. It's sartorial. Why sartorial? Because I feel like I'm almost a couturier in photography because of this slower process and because of this reflecting on images and because of rethinking the images. It's not quickly done. It's not like clack, 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 like this. But it's really saying, okay, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this. So it's a kind of more, I don't want to say a deeper process, but it's a slower process. And this slower process gives you also the opportunity to think in a different way and how it's staged between you, the camera, and the object you're shooting. So I'm still interested in this relationship between all these elements.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And how wonderful to just slow things down. Everyone's in such a hurry, aren't they, constantly, Brigitte? It's so nice to slow down, take a moment and immerse oneself in process, whether we're telling stories or depicting images. Let's just talk a bit about the process behind the images that are in this exhibition, of course. It's later this week. It's some wonderful, as I mentioned, iconic names in fashion and in couture, but also some iconic images. Tell me about the creative processes that you have brought to bear and how they reflect the astonishing heritage that Dior as a maison has.
This project came up in a really interesting way because Carine, she has asked me, what do you think about the House of Craft and if we could do this collaboration together with Dior. And then I have asked Olivier Bialobos, who is the communication director at Dior, what he thinks about the collaboration like this. And then we went into choosing single pieces of each designer. So we slowly came more closer to on which clothing we're going to feature, which image we want to take. So as well, we worked like more than 1 month only on choosing clothing and seeing which one could work better than the other one to have a more precise storytelling. And what was for me very important is the relationship between the clothing and the body language. And therefore, I looked into what kind of photography was taken in the 50s, in the 60s, in the 70s, in the 80s, and the 90s. And I tried somehow to reproduce the feelings of the bodies at that time. Obviously, then you bring it in the contemporary, you bring it because we live now, but the past is always as well included in the now. So for me, this including the past in the now was for me the essence of this work. So you have a John Galliano feeling, even if it's not anymore in that timeline, but it's in this moment. And when you go to Mark Borma, you have the feeling of this revolution of the bodies in the 60s, 70s. You feel the London vibe. You feel this kind of manifestation because he designed for 29 years Christian Dior. So he introduced Christian Dior in the Pret-a-Porter moment with the Miss Dior. So you have all these little details, what you can read through the photography. It's not only a fashion image, it's a fashion image with an historical approach. But not only looking at the clothing, it's a historical approach, but also in the mimic, in the behavior. And I tried to make it work out in this way. So, when you talk about Gianfranco Ferré or about John Galliano, the body's moving already in a different way. When you talk about Maria Grazia, they're moving in a completely way. About Raf Simons, they're moving in a completely way. So you have this kind of reading about this time, 75 years of Christian Dior, what makes it so unique in his own heritage.
Yeah, it's extraordinary. And there's that wonderful meeting of tradition, heritage, as you say, but then constant innovation and novelty and the modern. And it makes for a really compelling spectacle. Just on that point, Brigitte, let me ask you, because your work, so much of it across your career, it explores meaning of, identity. You consider the agency of viewership, that process by which the consumer of your work is seeing it. Tell me what you hope viewers of these works in this exhibition? What do you hope they'll take away from how you have portrayed Dior's designs? How do you consider the viewer's role in this exhibition in particular?
I hope that besides the beauty of it, that it starts to have a deeper understanding about the history of fashion, because we're talking about a small history. We're talking about 75 years. So it's, let's say, compared to, let's say, painting or sculpturing, it's a very short period of time that we are creating fashion images. It's also a very new way of looking things, because it's between a portrait, but then it's not a portrait, it's about commerce, but then in the end it's not about commerce, but then it's again about the beauty of the women, and then it's again about the style of the women. So there are many layers inside, and I hope that the viewer can go out of this exhibition with a new way of looking as well to fashion photography.
Brigitte Niedermair. And that brings us to the end of this edition of The Bulletin, with UBS setting the agenda in the fast-moving world of finance every week here on Monocle Radio. You can listen again and explore more at monocle.com or follow us wherever you get your audio. As John explained earlier, UBS House of Craft with Dior is open to the public June 6th through 8th at 28 Pine Street in New York City. Registration is free and open to the public at ubs.com/HOC now. This is The Bulletin with UBS on Monocle Radio. I'm Tom Edwards. Thanks for listening.